The day began like any other on set, routine and tightly scheduled. Sam Heughan arrived early, already in costume, preparing to step once again into the role of Jamie Fraser. The scene was demanding but familiar, the kind of physical work he had done countless times before. No one expected that this would be the day everything went wrong. The injury did not happen during a dramatic stunt. It occurred in a moment that felt deceptively controlled, when focus briefly shifted from adrenaline to precision. A misstep, a fraction of a second out of sync, and the impact was immediate. Those closest heard the sound before they fully understood what had happened. Sam went down, and he didn't get back up. At first, there was confusion rather than panic. Crew members assumed it was a routine knock, the kind actors shake off after a pause. But when Sam stayed still longer than expected, the tone on set changed. Conversations stopped, and the atmosphere tightened with quiet urgency. Those nearby noticed his expression first. It wasn't shock or fear, but pain held tightly in check. Sam attempted to move, then stopped himself, instinctively recognizing that something was wrong. Years of physical performance had taught him the difference between discomfort and real damage. Medical staff were called immediately. Filming halted without discussion, lights dimmed, and equipment was moved aside. The set that moments earlier had been alive with controlled chaos fell silent. No one needed to be told that this was serious. As Sam was assessed, the reality began to sink in. The injury wasn't superficial, and it wasn't something he could simply push through. Pain radiated sharply, limiting movement in a way that was impossible to ignore. For an actor known for endurance, the frustration was visible even as he tried to remain composed. The role of Jamie Fraser demands physical commitment. From sword fights to horseback scenes, Sam had built the character through strength and stamina over many seasons. That commitment had always come with risk, but this moment exposed the cost more clearly than ever before. Even experience cannot fully protect against the unexpected. Those who worked with him described the silence as heavy. Not because anyone spoke of worst-case scenarios, but because everyone was thinking them. Production schedules, storylines, and logistics suddenly felt secondary. What mattered was the man on the ground, not the character he was meant to portray. Sam was eventually helped off set, carefully and slowly. There was no attempt to dramatize the moment, no cameras recording what followed. This was not part of the show, and no one treated it as such. Privacy replaced performance, and concern replaced routine. Behind the scenes, difficult questions began forming. How serious was the injury? How long would recovery take? And most pressing of all, could filming continue without compromising Sam's health? These questions had no immediate answers, only weight. For Sam, the injury was more than physical. It represented an abrupt interruption of momentum, a forced pause in a role he carried deeply. Actors prepare mentally for pain within a script, but not for pain that threatens their ability to continue. The distinction is stark and sobering. The phrase, horrific injury, spread quickly, but the reality was quieter. It was not spectacle, but consequence. A reminder that the demands placed on long-running leads accumulate over time. Every season adds wear that doesn't always show until moments like this. Production officials chose caution. Rather than downplaying the incident, they prioritized assessment and rest. No one wanted a quick return that could lead to permanent damage. The story of Jamie Fraser could wait, Sam Heughan's health could not. As word reached fans, reactions were immediate and emotional. Concern replaced excitement, and speculation gave way to worry. For many, this was the first time the boundary between actor and character felt painfully thin. Seeing Sam hurt meant confronting the reality behind the performance. What made the moment especially difficult was its timing. With expectations high and pressure mounting, the injury introduced uncertainty where confidence once stood. No one knew how long the delay might be or what changes would be required. The only certainty was that things would not continue as planned. For now, the cameras stayed off. The set remained quiet, waiting not for a schedule, but for recovery. Sam's injury had paused more than a production. It had reminded everyone involved how fragile even the strongest performers can be. And this was only the beginning of the story. The days after the injury were quieter than anyone expected. Production did not halt with dramatic announcements or frantic updates. Instead, schedules were adjusted discreetly, scenes reshuffled, and conversations lowered in volume. The absence of spectacle made the situation feel more serious, not less. What became clear quickly was that this was not a minor setback. Sam Heughan's injury affected more than a single shoot day or a single scene. It disrupted the physical rhythm required to portray Jamie Fraser, a character built on endurance, movement, and controlled intensity. When that physical foundation is shaken, everything above it becomes vulnerable. Sam addressed the situation with unusual restraint. He did not dramatize the pain or seek sympathy, but he did not minimize it either. In acknowledging the injury, he emphasized limits rather than toughness, a notable shift for someone long associated with pushing through discomfort. That honesty reframed the incident from accident to consequence. Behind the scenes, concern replaced urgency. Crew members described a change in tone, with safety discussions becoming more deliberate and less procedural. No one wanted to risk compounding an injury that already carried long-term implications. Protecting the actor meant protecting the story itself. The injury forced Sam to confront something he had avoided for years. Physical exhaustion was no longer theoretical, it had manifested in a way that could not be ignored. Playing Jamie Fraser had demanded repeated strain, season after season, often without visible cost. This time, the cost arrived abruptly and without warning. Medical advice reportedly shaped the next decisions. Rest was no longer optional, and recovery timelines replaced production timelines as the priority. That shift created tension, not because of disagreement, but because it challenged the relentless pace everyone had grown used to. Slowing down felt unnatural, even necessary. Sam's reaction surprised many. Rather than frustration, he expressed a form of acceptance. Acknowledging vulnerability did not weaken his commitment to the role, it clarified it. Continuing without care would risk far more than delay, it could risk permanence. Fans responded with a mix of fear and reflection. Initial shock gave way to concern that went beyond schedules or release dates. Many began reconsidering how much physical demand the role had placed on Sam over the years. The injury became a reminder that endurance has limits, even for those who appear invincible. The character of Jamie Fraser loomed large in the conversation. For Sam, separating himself from the character during recovery proved difficult. Jamie's identity is tied to resilience, but real resilience sometimes means stopping. That distinction, though subtle, mattered deeply in this moment. Production teams adapted rather than resisted. Scenes requiring physical intensity were postponed, while dialogue-heavy moments were explored where possible. The injury reshaped not just timelines, but creative approaches. Constraint, once again, forced reconsideration. Sam's openness changed the narrative. This was no longer a story about an actor getting hurt on set. It became a story about sustainability, about the cumulative weight of long-term roles, and about acknowledging when the body demands attention. That shift gave the incident gravity rather than drama. Recovery was described as careful, not rushed. There were no promises of quick returns or miraculous timelines. Sam focused on healing fully rather than returning early. That patience contrasted sharply with the urgency that had defined much of his career. The injury left a lasting imprint even after filming resumed. It altered how Sam approached physically demanding scenes and how the production supported him. Boundaries once assumed to be flexible became clearly defined. That change may prove more significant than the injury itself. In the end, the bad news carried an unexpected clarity. The injury did not diminish Sam Heughan's dedication to Jamie Fraser. It exposed the cost of that dedication and forced a reckoning with its limits. Sometimes, the most difficult moments on set are not the ones that break a scene, but the ones that demand a pause before everything breaks.